everybody, and a very warm welcome to Spa-Francorchamps, the second meeting of the 2016 International GTOpen. We're here in the Ardennes Mountains, just outside Liège, the second stop on a grand tour of some of Europe's finest circuits. It's a warm welcome from Ben Evans to a beautiful day here at Spa. Perfect conditions for going motor racing, and we should be in for a thoroughly intriguing third race of the season for the International GTOpen. After the drama in Estoril, well, who will prevail this weekend? Lining up in pole position, it is Fernando Monnier in the BMW Team Teo Martin Motorsport entry that he shares with Gustavo Jacquemin, and Jacquemin on the podium in race 1 in Estoril. Alongside them on the front row of the grid is Duncan Tappy, the winner of race 2 in Estoril, alongside Michael Benham, beneficiaries of a dramatic last lap, but nonetheless Tappy and Benham are a force to contend with, particularly with Tappy behind the wheel. Third on the grid, it's a warm welcome to the championship to Marco Ciocci and Alex Moisev, and it's the Italian Ciocci who starts in the AF course Ferrari. And then fourth on the grid is Miguel Ramos in the second of the Teo Martin Motorsport BMWs that he shares with Roldan Rodriguez, the reigning champion. Miguel Ramos at Spa, a circuit he always goes well at. The grid already starting to be cleared, as we'll take a look how they line up in full. So Fernando Monnier and Duncan Tappy on the front row of the grid. In second place, or second row rather, Marco Ciocci and Miguel Ramos. Row 3, Fabrizio Cristani in the Lamborghini Huracan, and Josh Webster making his debut in the Renault RS01. Then Sean Balfe and Antonio Coimbra on row 4. And then the fifth row, Sally Yuluk and James Abbott. Which for the TF Sport Aston Martin to progress through the field, the same for Alex West on the inside of row 6 alongside Felipe Barrieros. Warm welcome to Emmanuel Busnelli in the Ebby Motors Lamborghini Huracan alongside Claudio Stanvich. Then Anna Rath starts in the DriveX Audi that she shares with Juan Cruz Alvarez, and again that's a car that could feature later on. The cars on their formation lap ready for the rolling start ahead of what is going to be 70 minutes of drama and excitement. There's a mandatory pit stop, and that comes when we have had 8 minutes of racing, so we've had 42 minutes of racing, so a 14-minute pit window in the middle of the race. They've got to come in and have a mandatory pit stop and driver change. They are all running on the control compound Michelin tyre, and with the balance of performance, particularly here at Spa, we're going to see some cars absolutely excelling through the first and third sectors. We're going to see others really enjoying the lengthy middle sector of the lap. Sector 2, there's Michael Benham chatting with Com Ledogar, and Ledogar, the French driver, stepping in to the Garage 59 entry alongside Alexander West, and that I believe is confirmed for the rest of the season. It was Kevin Estre, of course, who was sharing with West at the opening event of the year. It's the field heading down through the Bruxelles hairpin. It's Teo Martin, the principal of the Teo Martin Motorsport team. And last year, with the McLaren Teo Martin Motorsport squad, as much as anything, were able to take the championship by steadily learning the car as the season went on, picking up results and podiums in the early phase of the year, and then kicking on for wins in the second half of the season. It feels like that's the process that they're undertaking as well this year with their brace of BMWs. Now, both on the opening couple of rows of the grid, we should also look to see the progress of Phil Keane at the wheel of the Balfe Motorsport Ferrari. He is always a driver to watch going well. There is Keane in the red Ferrari. Here is Fabrizio Cristani in the orange one, Team Lazarus Lamborghini Huracan. He shares with the ex-FIA GT World Champion Thomas Biaggi, and Cristani and Biaggi a very evenly matched pair. And the other, of course, wildcard is that Renault RS01 of Joshua Webster, the Porsche Carrera Cup racer from the UK, and Nicky Pastorelli, former star of the International GTOpen, who's sharing the car with him this weekend. and Pastorelli and Webster, I think, could be a pairing not to be discounted. That is the black and yellow Renault that is going to be lining up in 6th position, understanding that it's going to be Webster at the wheel for the start of the race. The field beginning to bunch up now through Blanchimont, ready for the rolling start. With inclement weather forecast for tomorrow, today is the opportunity to enjoy Spa at its very, very best. Beautiful early summer sunshine here in the Ardennes. We've got a field full of supercars. We've got 70 minutes on the clock ahead of us. Let's enjoy this one as we wait for the Aston Martin pace car to peel off, and then we'll be going racing. Fernando Monnier and Duncan Tappy sharing the front row. Who's going to get the jump into La Source? We're about to find out. The lights change and away we go for the 3rd race of the International GTOpen season. It's a good start from Crestani as he tries to barge aside Miguel Ramos. Marco Ciocci also well away in the air of course Ferrari, and he snatches 2nd, if not more, as Monnier and Tappy run wide. Everybody makes it through cleanly, but with a fair amount of jostling. Josh Webster takes a big bite to curb the exit. It is Ciocci who leads it. Fernando Monnier 2nd, Miguel Ramos is 3rd, and Phil Keane up to 4th. Great move to the inside of Fabrizio Crestani as they head into Eau Rouge. Also making good progress is Sally Yuluk as they climb out of Radion and onto the Kemmel Straight for the first time. Side by side between the two leaders, Ciocci and Monnier. And it's Fernando Monnier who gets his nose just in front of Ciocci. Also Crestani launches to the inside of Phil Keane into Les Combes. They give each other racing room. Crestani obviously has to concede, and then having slipped back into 6th place, that's Duncan Tappy. And the timing screen and your graphics might suggest that it's Sean Balfe in the car. I can tell you it's Phil Keane, mainly because Sean's just popped his head in to say that Phil's in the car. As now got this challenge, Webster looking to look to the inside of Duncan Tappy in the Renault, and indeed he gains the position. It's Tappy, I think he's got a problem in the Garage 59 McLaren. Tappy goes offline and is slowing. Oh, and there's a problem behind, and it's a spin. Oh, and they just about avoid each other. It was Alexander West in the 2nd Garage 59 McLaren. He's also taken Philippe Barrieroth with him for company in the Renault RS01, and I think he was caught out by the ailing pace of the sister car of Duncan Tappy. He's looking to limp round back to the pits. It all got very, very close into La Source. I just wonder if glancing blow just cut Tappy's tyre. And here at Spa, because it's such a long lap, it is going to be a fairly long trip back to the pits. Meanwhile, we've got a good scrap behind Antonio Coimbra in the Sport and New Mercedes, in pursuit of Sally Yuluk in the TF Sport Aston Martin. As Ciocci arrives on the brakes into the bus stop chicane, just a little bit offline, but he's not under particular pressure from Miguel Ramos. Then we've got Phil Keane, who is next along in 4th position, and then Fabrizio Crestani just behind in 5th. They head through the La Source hairpin, running downhill on towards Eau Rouge. And all the while, Fernando Monnier in the lead of the race, trying to stretch his legs. He's waiting to see in the pits who makes it back. There's also a possibility it's Michael Benham who was starting the Garage 59 McLaren. We'll find out in due course. Nonetheless, he and Alexander West haven't made it to the end of the lap. Here's another look at it then. Garage 59 McLaren going very slowly. There's West who spins, and it was Barrieroth who very, very nearly collected the McLaren, but as Barrieroth then looked to recover in the Renault, and no, it is Duncan Tappy in the McLaren, because there's Benham, and there's a guy also expression of disappointment. Philippe Barrieroth, his recovery drive not going so well, and does he make it to the tyre wall? Unfortunately, yes, but hopefully without too much damage. So a few cars in a little bit of bother on this first lap of the race. Neither of them, however, the Teo Martin Motorsport BMWs, they run in 1st and 3rd. Fernando Monnier clear of Marco Ciocci. Yeah, of course, Ferrari sandwich. Then we've got Phil Keane in the Balfe Motorsport Ferrari looking to chase them down. Duncan Tappy is back into the race, having come out of the pits. Gustavo Jackerman and Roldan Rodriguez watching on from Teo Martin Motorsport garage. But what we were seeing in Estoril was the BMWs very quick, but did seem to be getting through their tyres a little bit more rapidly than some of their rivals, and that could potentially be something for them to consider, particularly on a reasonably warm day like this one, and the circuit as well that can be quite tough on tyres with the high lateral G-forces. Cristani, rather Thomas Biaggi according to the timing screen. Either way, whoever is at the wheel of the orange one, Lamborghini Huracan, it is lurking with intent in 5th position as Phil Keane looks like the move on Miguel Ramos. As they head downhill, he just has to feather the brakes as Ramos cover the line. But this is going to be close into Eau Rouge. Phil Keane, one of the very, very best in the business of international GT racing, hustling the BMW of Miguel Ramos as they propel onto the Kemmel straight. Ramos has got the car positioned perfectly. Phil Keane looks one side then the other, but the BMW has got a fair amount of punch in the straight line. It means that Phil Keane wants to go through. He's going to have to try and force the issue on the brakes until they come, but he doesn't draw alongside the BMW all the while, of course. This means that they can see the leaders beginning to escape in front of them. Monier's lead over Chiocci, 1.2 seconds. It's then a further 1.6 seconds at the start of the lap back to Miguel Ramos. And we've got Phil Keane. Thomas Biaggi next along in the Lamborghini Huracan. Firmly ensconced in 5th. In 6th place is Nicky Pastorelli. Oh, that's a huge accident for Fernando Monier. The race leader goes off, believe on the exit of Pouon, and absolutely clatters into the tyre wall. And that is an awful moment for the Teo Martin Motorsport BMW. We'll almost certainly have the safety car coming out to bring the race to a halt. Now that is what we want to see. Fernando Monier is moving around inside the cockpit. I think because the door's stoved in, he's actually unable to get out of the car, but he would appear to be okay. Seems to be giving the thumbs up to the marshal. But that, an awful, awful accident for the BMW. The safety car does indeed come out. The race brought under control. And that promotes Marco Chiocci to the lead of the race. Miguel Ramos in 2nd, Phil Keane is 3rd, Thomas Biaggi is 4th. That is Nicky Pastorelli in the Renault now in 5th. There is what we don't want to see, but we're relieved to see, which is Fernando Monier walking away. And understandably, I think, somewhat shaken as the marshal escorts him aside. And that was a huge hit for the BMW. He's giving the thumbs up. I think Monier just wants to get away from the scene, but the marshal probably making sure he stays there or thereabouts just until the doctor can get there to check him over. Promotes Chiocci to the lead of the race in the of course, Ferrari. So we're behind the safety car here in Spa. Chiocci leads from Miguel Ramos and Phil Keane. And it's probably going to be a few moments behind the safety car before we do get back up and running. So the safety car serves to bunch the field up. And not such good news for Marco Chiocci. He would have been hoping to build a little bit of a buffer at the front of the field. The same for Phil Keane. For Miguel Ramos, this is good news for him. It gives Roldan Rodriguez the opportunity to benefit from a more bunched field. The same, you would suggest, goes for Sally Ullich when he hands over to Ewan Hankey. Nicky Pastorelli and Josh Webster. Fairly evenly matched driver pairing as well. Sally Ullich in the TF Sport Aston Martin. It's got then James Abbott in the Radical just behind him. Emanuele Busnelli in the EBI Motors Lamborghini. Well, he has made ground in the stage. Here we see it's on the exit of Pouon, and it's just as he kicks onto the AstroTurf, and the BMW rockets into the tyre wall, and a very, very nasty incident. Very pleased that Fernando Monnier is okay. Obviously an awful lot of damage to the car, but I think in the context of Monnier walking away from that one, that is probably the foremost concern in the Teo Martin Motorsport garage. But this is always the risk here at Spa. It's a circuit that can bite you. A small mistake like that one, just running wide at Pouon. It was just then the AstroTurf just kicked the car into a change of direction, and that was what caused the problem for him. So we're almost 10 minutes in to this first race of the weekend at Spa-Francorchamps. Marco Ciocci leads from Miguel Ramos and Phil Keane, and that is not what the drivers want in the garages. The second half of the race is see damaged cars out on track, but hopefully we will be back up and racing very, very shortly. Safety car continues to lead the cars here at Spa-Francorchamps. Fernando Monnier about to hop into the medical car. Got out of the car under his own steam, but he is understandably probably going to go to the medical centre for a quick check. If you have just joined us, the reason we are behind the safety car is a very, very nasty accident involving Fernando Monnier. It was coming out of Pouon, and as he looked to rejoin the track, the car went onto the AstroTurf and it just kicked the car into a change of direction, and thereafter it went headlong into the tyre wall. Was very badly damaged, but fortunately Monnier able to walk clear. So Monnier out of the running. Ciocci leads the way. Miguel Ramos is second, Phil Keane is third, then it's Thomas Biaggi in fourth, Nicky Pastorelli in the Renault RS01 in fifth, Antonio Coimbra sixth, Sally Ulick is seventh, then James Abbott, Emanuele Busnelli, Stefan Lemeray in 10th from Max Brahms, and then we've got Alexander West and Duncan Tappy. Now this is good news for the Garage 59 pairing, because of course they had those first lap problems, in particular for Duncan Tappy, forced into the pits, I suspect, to change tyre after a puncture, and Tappy will be pleased with the opportunity to have the ground, some of his rivals, closed up. The winner last time out, of course, in Estoril, Duncan Tappy, and he is there, the tail of the field, just behind Anna Rath in the DriveX Audi. It's an all-new driver pairing this weekend, by the way, in the DriveX Audi team. Juan Cruz Alvarez and Anna Rath. Here's another look. The one incident running wide through Pouon, looks to rejoin. It was just that lip, and then, well, I think we should all be very, very grateful for the safety standards of modern racing cars, and also circuit safety as well. Thumbs up from Fernando Monnier, and it's very hard to draw a positive from an incident like that, but the fact that his first instinct of getting out of the car is to be disappointed about ruining his race, I think shows that most importantly the car did everything it needed to do with the forces of an accident like that. Quite how long we're going to be out behind the safety car remains to be seen. There is Duncan Tappy, the car that he shares with Michael Benham, and Tappy, who was second on the grid, was involved in a little bit of jostling at the source on the first lap, and then the car slowing through Pouon midway through the first lap, forcing the car to peel into the pit lane and suspect probably change tyres. But Tappy will be pleased to see the field all closed up. For others this is going to be disappointing, but for some of the slower drivers in any given driver pairing who are starting this race, then this potentially could be very good news for them indeed. Then we've got the Renault weaving around there, the car of Josh Webster and Nicky Pastorelli. I think it is Webster, in fact, behind the wheel. The Porsche Carrera Cup racer, and potentially a very strong driver pairing, you would suggest, alongside Pastorelli. The Renault RS01, magnificent looking car in close quarters really looks menacing, but then so did the Mercedes and the Aston Martin behind them. We've got the Radical RXC of Colin Noble and James Abbott. Now it's through Puma where we had the incident, so if we get a slightly wider camera angle, we'll get a sense of how quickly the track is going to be cleared. The car's currently in this middle sector, which is the, relatively speaking, although it's best part of 30 years old, if not a bit beyond that, new part of the Spa-Francorchamps circuit, which was purpose-built when the old circuit here at Spa was deemed a little bit too dangerous for racing. Safety car leading them pretty slowly past seeing the incident, so we're going to be having another few moments behind the safety car. Don't forget that we're not that far either from the pit window opening. That's going to open when we have got 42 minutes left on the clock, or in other words 13 minutes time, and that is always the point at which the race can begin to get turned on its head, particularly if gaps haven't opened up during the early stages of the race. Certainly going to have one more lap behind the safety car, because you just caught a glimpse there of the tractor that was in position moving the tyre wall back to its original placing. Once that's done and all the debris has been cleared, then we should be able to resume the action. Well, there is the sporting new Mercedes of Antonio Coimbra, Luis Silva. They had an absolutely magnificent home event at the Estoril circuit. They took GTOpen honours in both races. They're currently leading the GTOpen class as well this afternoon. They're leading that from the Claudio Stancic and Stefan Lemeray car, and then Philippe Barrieros and Max Brahms in the V8 Racing, entering the second of the Renault RS01s. There's a chance to enjoy the Evi Motors Lamborghini Huracan of Fabio Babini and Emanuele Busnelli, and it is Busnelli in the car for the first half of the race, but the very, very rapid Fabio Babini will take over for the second phase. So again, this is a car that potentially is going to benefit a little bit from a protracted safety car period, because every lap that we spend behind the safety car is a lap that the pro driver who started the race won't be able to gain on the rest of the field. So the potential to be immensely frustrating for Phil Keane. Likewise for Marco Ciocci. Very good news though for the other Garage 59 McLaren. Alexander West to hand over to Côme Ledogar, and French driver will again fancy his chances with a closely bunched field a little bit later on. But for Duncan Tappy, back of the field is going to give him a chance, or a bunched field is going to give him a chance to recover something. But Michael Benham, although he's there or thereabouts on pace and going very, very well for a driver of his very somewhat limited experience, it's not quite a Tappy's pace, and he's not the pace of some of the pro drivers who will be behind the wheel later on. Here's another look at the start there. Now, yes, there was contact, you see it quite clear there, between Ciocci and Tappy, and I suspect that that's what gave Tappy a cut tyre. And as Tappy slowed, it was West who took evasive action, then Philippe Barrieros come barrelling in, just avoided Alexander West. He had a quick spin, and then Barrieros, in his anxiety to rejoin the fray, got it all a little bit wrong at Fagnes. But fortunately, whilst just kissing the tyre wall, he didn't do anything more substantial in terms of damage. And then this is why we're behind the safety car. Another look at the ferocious impact for Fernando Mornier. Just a reminder that he is okay. Right, there is Thomas Biaggi. So Fabrizio Crestani at wheel of the Lamborghini Huracan. And we are almost 20 minutes in here to the first race of the weekend in the International GTOpen. Marco Ciocci leads behind the safety car. Down the Kemmel Straight once more behind the safety car. We are on the 6th lap of the race. We've only had 2 or 3 laps of racing for the intervention of the safety car. It was on the 3rd lap that Fernando Mornier went off, so yeah, 2.5 laps at race pace. Plenty of drama within those 2.5 laps, and I'm sure plenty more to come. It's only now 9 minutes until the pit window opens, and this is where the element of strategy starts to come into play. We do have, of course, a fairly lengthy, for a race of this duration, pit window, some 14 minutes, and the lap time for the fastest cars in the region of a 2 minutes and 20 second bracket, then that is going to give them the chance, probably for those that want to run towards the end of it, of doing 5 or 6 laps depending on track position when the pit window opens, which might be enough to bring some of those other cars into contention. And that is a very relaxed Juan Cruz Alvarez, poised to take over in the Drivex Audi from Anna Rath. There's Josh Webster in the Renault RS01. No word yet that the safety car is going to be coming in, while the clock continues to tick down to give you an indication. Last time it was a 5 minute 15 second lap. So Roldan Rodriguez readies himself. So each lap behind the safety car taking a good chunk out of the race time. Essentially it's double the duration of a racing lap. So they're losing 2 laps for every lap behind the safety car. Work still ongoing at Pouhon as we remain behind the safety car, following the incident for Fernando Monnier midway through the 3rd lap of the race. Monnier is okay, the car pretty emphatically not, and the tyre wall picking up a fair amount of damage as well, which is why we have got this protracted safety car period. It means that the team strategists are continually starting to think about what they're going to be doing. The pit window, just to remind you, opens when there are 42 minutes left on the clock, and so that is just a handful of moments away. And as we come to the end of another lap behind the safety car, we are going to be having at least one more tour of the circuit, and that is going to bring us to about 43 minutes left in the race if we were to go green at the end of the next lap. Well, this is the second stop of the season for the International GTOpen, and just to put a marker in your diary for the rest of the calendar, from Spa-Francorchamps in a fortnight's time we will be at the Paul Ricard circuit in the south of France, and then from Paul Ricard we have a little bit of a pause until the 23rd and 24th of July, when we're in action on the Silverstone Grand Prix circuit. That then leads us into the summer break. The 10th and 11th of October is when the championship reconvenes at the Red Bull Ring, and then from the Red Bull Ring it's on to Monza at the very start of October, and then the circuit to Barcelona, Catalonia at the start of November. So opportunity for the drivers to enjoy a magnificent array of circuits, but Spa always one of the highlights for the drivers because it represents such a challenge. It's not just that it's a quick track, it's a circuit which has got lots of high-speed corners, lots of high-speed direction changes, and that is positive. It looks like the work over at Pouhon is more or less completed. Probably just need to put the belting back across the tyres to make sure that they're all secured, and once that is complete then we should be able to go racing. And we're going to go green pretty much just at the moment where the pit window opens.
Okay, perfect.
Is provoking a lot of discussion about, right, what are we going to do in terms of strategy? Well, I think we could expect to see Phil Keane probably staying out until the very end of the pit window. I'm not so sure about Sully Yillett. There was Ewan Hankey, and Sully Yillett I think will be in quite early. I would expect to see Miguel Ramos coming in quite early. Marco Ciocci will probably stay out for a little bit longer, and then we'll also see Duncan Tappy staying out, but Alexander West coming in. That's probably what we can anticipate seeing. But certainly plenty of drivers beginning to ready themselves. Garages. There is Nicky Pastorelli in the V8 Racing Garage. Now, just to remind you, of course, if the safety car were to continue for another lap, then although the pit window would be open, driver changes aren't allowed behind the safety car. and that has seen several people get caught out in the past. It's a regulation that in the history of the International GT Open possibly has been read a little bit less than some of the others. But I think barring disaster, we should be able to go green at the end of this lap. But it's a race that now has a very, very different complexion, because what was going to be a series of 2 sprints for about 35 minutes each is now turning into a single sprint over just over 40 minutes. Sun glinting off the cars. As I say, there is inclement weather forecast for tomorrow, because the legend at Spa-Francorchamps goes that there are 2 types of weather. It's either raining or it's about to rain. Today we have escaped the rain, but tomorrow it's possible that might start to move in. But if you cast your mind back a few years, we have had some horribly wet races here, most notably the Sunday race in 2012, absolutely atrocious conditions. But amazingly, the race was held in green flag conditions with very few incidents. Well, the good news is that the safety car is going to be coming in on this lap, so we are about to go racing once more after a fairly protracted period here behind the safety car. The best part of 20-25 minutes behind the safety car. Thank you very much for your company today, following the International GT Open and enjoying the action here at Spa-Francorchamps. Whilst it's not quite the race that we had hoped for, I think we're still going to be in for a very exciting 40 minutes or so nonetheless. So it's now the responsibility of Marco Ciocci to start to pace the field, to think about at which point he is going to pull the pin and get back up to speed. We've had safety cars in the earlier race for the Euro Formula Open, and on that restart it was just going through the bus stop chicane when the field started to accelerate. Anticipate it's probably going to be broadly similar for Marco Ciocci. Phil Keane already battering and hassling Miguel Ramos, because that was the big battle that was underway just before the safety car came out. And Marco Ciocci goes for it now and accelerates very early as he looks to try and build the buffer over Miguel Ramos as we go back into green flag conditions. But Ramos already under pressure from Phil Keane, and then it's Fabrizio Crostani who's next along as they accelerate past the commentary box and into the 8th lap of the race. Plenty jostling behind as well. Sally Yuluk busy being hassled by Colin Noble as the field run down out of the source. A little bit from there for Felipe Barrieros, who seemed to bump to a halt at the hairpin. Hopefully that was just a glimpse of him riding the curb a bit too aggressively, but the Renault hasn't arrived as Fabrizio Crostani gets the run on Miguel Ramos, who's already been passed by Phil Keane as they head along the Kemmel Straight. And Crostani might get this move done on Miguel Ramos. It's hard to see from the camera angle. Indeed, he does. The orange one, Lamborghini Huracan, moves clear. Ramos slips back into 4th position, immediately coming under pressure as well from Josh Webster. Webster in the Renault, looking to try and pick his way past them. We've got Antonio Coimbra doing an excellent job in the Sporting Mercedes. Here is a look, meanwhile, at Sally Yuluk, Colin Noble, and the Radical running a little bit wide. Not sure Noble should really be regaining the place then. Meanwhile, the pit window is now open. So at the end of this lap, we're going to start to see a flurry of pit stops, although probably not from the leading couple of cars. Maybe, though, for Ramos in 4th, and also maybe for Josh Webster in 5th to pass over to Nicky Pastorelli, although Webster doing a pretty fine job at the moment and hustling Miguel Ramos. Webster can get past. We've not really seen the Renault running in clear air so far this race, because after a couple of frenetic laps, a long safety car period, no gaps really were able to open up. But at the moment, the Renault looking strong in its pursuit of the BMW, accelerating out of Stavelot on to the sweep at Blanchimont. and then towards the bus stop chicane. Marco Chiocci arrives there now. Italian driver, I suspect, is going to continue as Ramos defends from Webster, who looks one side then the other. Is Ramos going to duck towards the pits? Yes, he does. Josh Webster continues on his way. So the Teo Martin Motorsport BMW of Miguel Ramos goes in. It's going to be the ex-GP2 driver, Roldan Rodriguez, who takes over from him. Phil Keane, Fabrizio Cristani, Marco Ciocci all continue. Also in is Sally Uluk. No surprise there to hand over to Ewan Hankey. Also into the pits is Manuele Busnelli, and that is to hand on to Fabio Babini. Out jumps Miguel Ramos. In hops Roldan Rodriguez. Ramos straps in the Spaniard. Claudio Stanvic and Stefan Lamouret also switching positions in the AF Course Ferrari. This is, of course, the home race for Stefan Lamouret, as the Radical does battle with the Mercedes. Felipe Barrieros also getting his pit stop out of the way. Max Brahms it is who gets into the Renault, as the Ebi Motors Lamborghini Huracan takes on a fairly hefty drink of fuel before Fabio Babini rejoins the action. Now, what can Phil Keane do? Now, he is released in pursuit of Marco Ciocci. Comme Ledogar as well rejoins the action in the Garage 59 McLaren. The driver who's benefiting from all this, of course, is Duncan Tappy. He's getting a little bit of clear air in the second Garage 59 McLaren. We'll try not to give away too much ground to this leading group. Ciocci and Keane running in tandem. Then the gap back to Fabrizio Cristani, but Cristani, with Thomas Biaggi to take over from him late on, I don't think is going to be unduly concerned by losing a second or two here or there. As the cars hurtle through Blanchimont, the fastest and most daunting sections of the track, particularly as these are pretty pronounced curves taken at very, very high speed before it all comes back under control just a little bit into the bus stop chicane. Ciocci and Keane navigate with no drama. What about Fabrizio Cristani? He is going to continue at least for one more lap. The same for Josh Webster. And why would you? We have got into the pit lane, though, the Radical to undertake its driver change. Now, that last time round, Phil Keane was fractionally quicker than Marco Ciocci. James Abbott and Colin Noble to switch seats in the Radical RXC. Up goes the Gullwing door, out hops Colin Noble. That was a good performance from Noble. The Radical looking a little bit more competitive this weekend in comparison to how it was going in Estoril. The performance in Estoril a little bit hard to judge after the damage to the nose cone picked up very early on in the first race. Now Phil Keane beginning to reel in Marco Ciocci. This battle for the lead, they've got good 10 minutes or so to sort themselves out on the track, and Phil Keane will be determined if he can to take the lead away from Ciocci. But again, it depends. There's that balance between risking the car but also the extent to which you're getting held up, and Phil Keane, an experienced enough competitor to know Ciocci's running at a good pace to give Sean Bouth the chance to be competitive late on. He doesn't need to unnecessarily risk the car, but at the same time, if he's not, then he'll push through. Meanwhile, Juan Cruz Alvarez is into the DriveX Audi, the ex-GP2 racer, and in fact he had his career best GP2 results here at Spa, going back to the 2005 season, the very early days of GP2. Fabrizio Cristani, third place, the orange one. Lazarus Lamborghini Huracan. And Cristani, another driver, making the step up really into international competition this year. Not quite got as much experience as, of course, his co-driver Thomas Biaggi, but nonetheless has been very rapid and accomplished in the early stages of the season. Now, Phil Keane, last time through, was 1.2 seconds back from Ciocci. Setting the fastest lap of the race in the process. I suspect he's a little bit closer this time around. We'll find out in due course as the pair of them run across the start and finish line. Yes, the gap comes down by 0.3 of a second. In the background, you can see into the pit lane was Josh Webster. That is to hand over to Nicky Pastorelli. Cristani continues on his way. Webster comes to a halt. And the former European Formula 3000 champion, former F1 test driver, Nicky Pastorelli, about to jump in. Pastorelli gets strapped into the cockpit of the Renault RS01. A car probably better associated with the Renault Sport Trophy, which it was designed for that single make series, but has moved into GT3 competition and has proved to be very popular. It's now the brace of Ferraris running at the front of the field as we hit half race distance, the order being Marco Ciocci from Phil Keane, then it's Fabrizio Cristani, fourth is Duncan Tappy. They have all not had their driver changes. There is the slightly nervous figure of Alex Moisiev, who will take over from Ciocci in the imminent pit stop, but they've still got 7 minutes until the pit window closes. They've got time therefore for 3 or so more laps. Here is Duncan Tappy scything his way through the field. That's a move on Antonio Coimbra. And Tappy, having had that pit stop for the early problem, to be only 15 seconds back from lead. Well, it's not what he would have hoped from a front row start, but in terms of making the best of possibly a bad hand, he has done remarkably well, aided the course by the safety car, but then some astute driving to pick his way through the traffic. Of those that have pitted, it's Roldan Rodriguez who is to the fore from Fabio Babini and Ewan Hankey. At this stage of the race, always everything a little bit in flux. What can say with certainty though is that Ciocci and Keane are pushing very hard. They are both consistently lapping in the low 220s, or in the case of Phil Keane, the high 2-minute 19s. How does this lap compare? Keane inching ever closer, except through that final sector, but again, that's because Ciocci raised his pace to a 2 minutes 20.060. It was a 2 minutes 20.1 for Phil Keane. Fabrizio Cristani, he's a couple of tenths of a second adrift of that, but it's still pretty much in the mix. What's going to probably be making them nervous, though, is they're racing a car that they can't see, and the car they can't see, Roldan Rodriguez, is matching those race leaders stride for stride. But then both Fabio Babini and Ewan Hankey and Combe Ledogar are all lapping in the 2 minutes 19s. So therefore, battle for the lead. They're not the quickest cars on the track. Some of those drivers that have taken over early in this stint are flying, so we should be in for a very close conclusion to the race. Cristani, we saw his co-driver Thomas Biaggi ready himself in the pit lane a couple of moments ago. We can therefore expect to see the Lamborghini Huracan in at the end of this, the 12th lap of the race. If you have just joined us, we had a lengthy safety car period following the incident for Fernando Monnier in the early stages. About 22 minutes or so we spent behind the safety car, and therefore the gaps that could have opened up haven't opened up. It means that there is an intriguing strategic dimension to this race to be played out. Ciocci and Keane running in tandem, running a little bit wide in fact, coming through Stavelot, looking to arrive now into Blanchimont. Got time for probably one more lap before they'll have to come in and make their pit stop, but I suspect they're both going to exercise that option. Roldan Rodriguez is now comfortably into the 2 minute 19s. The driver to watch for though is going to be the Garage 59 McLaren. Combe Ledogar is in the 2 minute 18 second bracket. He's just set the fast lap of the race, 2 minutes 18.369, which is 1.8 seconds a lap quicker than this pairing in front. They lost a bit of time, of course, early on, Ledogar and Alexander West, with West having that spin. safety car will have bunched that up. As into the pit lane now comes Cristani, turned over to Thomas Biaggi. Although it's early stage of the season, the Lamborghini has been consistently competitive with two fairly evenly matched drivers, and this is a car surely, as the season unfolds, as we get towards the time of the year where the championship starts to get decided, where that could start to come into play. Giudici and Keane negotiate Les Combes. They'll both be in at the end of this lap. And then once they have completed their out laps, we'll get a sense of what the race order is once the pit stop cycle has been played through, but also the gaps that some of the quicker drivers a little bit lower down the field need to close up, because there are some very, very quick drivers a little bit lower down the pack. Roldan Rodriguez, however, has got a good buffer over Nicky Pastorelli and then Fabio Babini, but behind Babini there is a great scrap. Here it is, it's Coben Edegaard chasing Babini, looking to challenge the inside into the bus stop chicane. They've got Ewan Hankey just ahead of them. Hankey's found a way past Babini over the course of this last lap, and this is a battle that could be very significant as we get towards the last stage of the race. But I think Edegaard in the background in the Garage 59 McLaren might have got the run on Babini coming out of the bus stop chicane. Indeed he does, and finds a way past into the La Source hairpin. His next target is Ewan Hankey, but Hankey and Sally Ulick, they are in pursuit of their maiden international GTOpen victory. A very quick driver pairing. A little bit of speculation on social media last night that they would possibly be good even for the double this weekend. Pacey Ewan Hankey, low minutes 2:20s as Thomas Biaggi goes side by side with Nicky Pastorelli. Biaggi emerges from the pits and Pastorelli moves ahead of him, and that is essentially the battle for second and third of those that have pitted. As now the race leaders come in. Marco Ciocci is to pass over to Alex Moisev, and Phil Keane to Sean Balfe. The door of the Balfe Motorsport Ferrari opens. Phil jumps out, Sean gets in. The same underway in the AF course pit box. Very, very calm, controlled pit stop from AF course. It's going to be, nonetheless, exactly bang on the money in terms of the minimum possible time they could spend in the pits, but it's just that unhurried nature. These are the cars that are on track racing the static vehicles. Thomas Biaggi has lost out to Pastorelli. Coben Edegaard in pursuit of Ewan Hankey, and they're all chasing down Roldan Rodriguez at the head of the field. Swooping out of Stavelot on towards Blanchimont for Thomas Biaggi. The real question is going to be where some of the other cars that are currently in the pit lane emerge into the mix. We'll find out in a moment whether or not they'll have emerged into the lead of the race or not. Roldan Rodriguez goes in front of the commentary box just now. Rodriguez essentially the race lead. Now here is Sean Balfe, and Sean Balfe has got the jump on Moisev through the pit stops. Now the big question is going to be, whereabouts is Roldan Rodriguez in comparison to the two Ferraris, and therefore who is leading the race? The long shot suggests that it's Balfe. Yes, indeed, Sean Balfe leads the race. Moisev in second place, Roldan Rodriguez is in third, and they are about 6 seconds up the road ahead of the scrap that we were watching behind. So this is going to be an absolutely brilliant closing phase of the race, because Sean Balfe, a very quick driver, Alex Moisev, something of a lesser known quantity, Roldan Rodriguez, another very rapid peddler, but they have all got some very, very quick cars looking to try and chase them down. But we saw this in Estoril, that Sean Balfe is nothing if not unflappable, as he was able to manage a good gap over the rest of the field en route to he and Phil Keane's maiden victory in the championship. Will he be able to do the same once again? I think he's going to be helped here a little bit, particularly if Rodriguez and Moisev get caught up in a bit of a scrap, which is possibly the case through Pouot. Now, what does the Ferrari do to defend from the BMW? The answer is not a lot. It sticks to its guns, and that is enough to keep Rodriguez at bay. The Ferrari possibly just having a slightly shorter braking distance than the big grunt of the BMW behind it. There in the background you can see Nicky Pastorelli closing with intent. Then we've got Thomas Biaggi just behind, Ewan Hankey and Kobe Ledogar. Where can Rodriguez find a way past, and is this going to be the opportunity that Balf needs? Oh, that's very, very brave from Roldan Rodriguez, who moves the inside of Moiseev on the way into Blanchimont. Great move from Roldan Rodriguez. He gains second position. Now he is released to chase down Sean Balf. Will Balf be able to keep the Teo Martin Motorsport BMW of Roldan Rodriguez behind him for 25 minutes or so? Team Teo Martin would suggest probably not. Team Balf would say we very much hope so. It's another look at it. You don't see moves like that too often here at Spa, but Rodriguez saw the gap, knew he had to pounce before the race got away from him, and already the BMW of Roldan Rodriguez off in pursuit of Sean Balf. Nicky Pastorelli closing up onto this trio fairly quickly as well. Now it's going to be a long the Kemmel straight where the BMW should be able to hassle the Ferrari, and that's exactly the case. Rodriguez carries huge momentum out of Radion down the Kemmel straight, and Sean Balf covers the inside line, but Rodriguez just able to get past him in a straight line. Rodriguez takes the lead, and well, this could be a race of mixed fortunes for the Teo Martin Motorsport BMW squad. Fernando Monnier, having that monumental accident earlier on, brought out the safety car. Meanwhile, Kobe Ledogar finding a way to the inside of Thomas Biaggi, and this is the car they've all got to watch for, the Garage 59 McLaren Ledogar, the quickest car in the race at the moment. And having already found a way past Ewan Hankey, Fabio Babini, and now Thomas Biaggi, it puts the McLaren into 5th position, some 12 seconds off the race leader, Roldan Rodriguez, but this group of cars all a little bit quicker than Balf and Rodriguez, as now Pastorelli about to make the move, and Alex Moiseev for 3rd position. Nicky Pastorelli thinks about the challenge into Fagnes, but this is somewhere where the Russian is very strong, and that's exactly what Moiseev is able to do. Pastorelli also knows just about every single trick of the trade. In a parallel universe, he'd have been a Formula 1 star. Nonetheless, he has had an incredible career as one of the go-to drivers in international sports car and GT racing, and now he is looking to challenge Moiseev into Blanchimont. He's not quite as close as Roldan Rodriguez was a couple of laps ago, and instead Pastorelli's probably going to chance his arm into the bus stop chicane as Moiseev runs wide, and Pastorelli goes through, takes the place. Does he get the car stopped? Yes, he does, just in time, and that is 3rd place for Nicky Pastorelli. His next target, Sean Balf. Roldan Rodriguez in clear air, a 2 minutes 20.0. Sean Balf, a 2 minutes 24. Nicky Pastorelli, a 2:22, but that was passing Moiseev. What of Kobe Ledogar? A 2 minutes 19. The leading quintet of cars covered by 12 seconds. Here's another look at the Pastorelli pass. It was the Ferrari that ran wide. Nicky Pastorelli drew alongside, got his nose in front, and found a way past. And now, how quickly can Pastorelli close up on to Sean Balf? For Roldan Rodriguez, it's the length of the Kemmel straight between he and Kobe Ledogar, and it's really Ledogar who is the only threat, I would suggest, to Roldan Rodriguez. We've also got Ewan Hankey in the Teo Sport Aston Martin. Fabio Babini looking to challenge as well into late. Come! Biaggi shuts the door, and no change between the two Lamborghinis. We've got just over 20 minutes to go here at Spa. It could well be a thrilling finish. The fight for 7th place between Thomas Biaggi and Fabio Babini, and Babini looking to make the move, couldn't quite do it, won't be able to do so into Pouhon, I would suggest. And they've all got to be mindful of the track limits. We've just had a blanket warning go out to all the drivers to be respectful of the track limits, and once that goes out, it suggests any more drivers who are spotted putting all 4 wheels over the white line are liable to a risk of a penalty. which again could add another complexion to the race. Meanwhile, Sean Balfe has got Nicky Pastorelli with him for company. This is the battle for second position into Blanchimont. Pastorelli and the Renault, the RS01, closing up onto terms with Balfe. Does Pastorelli pull the pin and challenge into the bus stop chicane? No, he can't quite do it. Now, you've got to wonder whether or not Pastorelli is only 3.5 seconds or so back from Roldan Rodriguez. We can get past Balfe in fairly short order. Could he do anything about the race leader, Roldan Rodriguez? Same time, Sean will want to get the Balfe Motorsport Ferrari onto the podium once more. And he wants to also continue the very strong start to the championship for he and Phil Keane. That last lap from Pastorelli, even though he was tucked up right behind Sean Balfe, was not dissimilar to the time of the race leader, Roldan Rodriguez. Meanwhile, Combe Ledegaard, should tell you, was a second quicker than Roldan Rodriguez in 5th position. Ledegaard about to move into 4th at the back of your picture. You can see the McLaren moving to the inside of the Ferrari. And Ledegaard makes the move stick into Les Combes. Ledegaard claims 4th position as Fabio Babini has found a way past Thomas Biaggi, the Abbey Motors Lamborghini. Now Babini is released. What can he do? The car in front of him, that of Ewan Hankey, may encounter some troubles. Their team manager's just been summoned to race control. Sean Balfe and Nicky Pastorelli run nose to tail through Poole, and it's coming out of Poole where Pastorelli always seems to be very strong, and Sean Balfe knows that he covers the inside line on the way towards Fagnes. Pastorelli says fair enough, I'll go to the outside. The pair of them run side by side. Great move from Nicky Pastorelli to pull that off, absolutely beautifully executed. He claims 2nd position. Sean Balfe demoted to 3rd, and all the while they've got Combe Ledegaard closing onto their tail. We have still got 90 minutes on the clock here at Spa, and Roldan Rodriguez is our race leader. Nicky Pastorelli now in 2nd position. Roldan Rodriguez is lapping in the low 2-minute 20-second bracket. Now that Pastorelli's in clear air, we'll see whether or not he can revert back into the 2-minute 19-second bracket, which is the pace of the Garage 59 McLaren of Ledegaard. On the brakes through the bus stop chicane. The deficit from Rodriguez to Pastorelli last time around was 5.5 seconds. The gap between the pair of them at the end of the 17th lap of the race goes out to 7.5 seconds. Pastorelli losing time behind Balfe. Roldan Rodriguez also elevating his pace to a 2 minutes 19.7. Meanwhile, here's a replay of Fabio Babini making that pass on Thomas Biaggi. Look at it from the other angle. Well, you wouldn't want to meet a Lamborghini Huracan on a dark night, would you? That is one menacing looking car. Here is the move from Pastorelli once more, absolutely beautifully executed. Really good drive from both of them. They held their lines, they gave each other racing room. And that received the appropriate round of applause in the V8 Racing pit. Now Pastorelli is sprung in pursuit of Roldan Rodriguez. Sean Balfe might have his work cut out here in 3rd place. He's got Ledegaard closing up onto his tail all the while in 4th. In 5th place, it's Alex Moiseev. 6th, it's Ewan Hankey. 7th, Fabio Babini. 8th, it's Thomas Biaggi. 9th, it's Stefan Lemeray. And Lemeray, by the way, leads the GTOpen class. Michael Benham is in 10th. 2nd GTOpen runner is Luis Silva. And he is in 11th position. Pastorelli, it's this middle sector which is going to be key. He gives away about 0.6 of a second to Roldan Rodriguez through the first sector, as now Stefan Lemeray picks his way past the Lamborghini Huracan of Thomas Biaggi. I just wonder whether or not that car is starting to have some troubles, be they tyre troubles or some other issue, because we'd expect to be seeing that car being a little bit more competitive than it is through the middle sector. And Nicky Pastorelli was 1.5 seconds quicker than Roldan Rodriguez. Here is the fight for 3rd place. Combe Ledegaard bottled up behind Sean Bow. You don't know where to look, do you? There's battles all over the track now as Alex Moiseev has been caught by Fabio Babini. Babini has also dispensed with Ewan Hankey. Italian driver with a bit between his teeth. The Russian running wide once more on the exit of Blanchimont as Ewan Hankey looks to the inside of Babini. Babini tries to look to the inside of the Ferrari. Nothing doing. As here is the challenge for third place. Ledegaard to the outside of Sean Bow. Bow tries to squeeze the McLaren. Just about reasserts his line as they head down towards Eau Rouge. The McLaren draws alongside there. This is going to be tight into Eau Rouge. They're side by side. Ledegaard is going to try and force it, and he does, swooping through into third position. Beautiful move from Cohen Ledegaard, but immediately Sean Bow looks to rejoin the fight. And he tucks in behind the McLaren along the Kemmel Straight. As they arrive on the brakes into Les Combes, but Ledegaard has made the move stick into third, and now we have got 11 seconds covering this leading quartet. Roldan Rodriguez, however, his lead was chopped down significantly on the last lap as Moiseev has been demoted by both Ewan Hankey and Stéphane Lemeray as well, and probably in fairly due course by Thomas Biaggi too. Once more, an excellent drive from Stéphane Lemeray. He was one of the stars in Estoril and is continuing this rich vein of form. Of course, he loves this Spa circuit, but he's mixing it with the pro drivers at the front of the field and making the AF Course Ferrari work very well for him. Running in tandem behind Ewan Hankey. This is the battle for 6th and 7th position. Lemeray just running a little bit wide coming out of Pouhon. Needs to be careful. Doesn't want to incur the wrath of the clerk of the course. So ready, we've got team manager for Alex Moiseev, who needs to report to the clerk of the course, probably for a track limits violation, and Lemeray again living a little bit dangerously, one could suggest. Just about keeping the car within the track limits on that occasion. There was an awful lot to choose in it. Hankey trying to break clear of Lemeray, coming to the end of the 19th lap of the race. At the front of the field, by the way, Nicky Pastorelli last time round was 1.7 seconds quicker than Roldan Rodriguez. So as we follow the fight for 5th, 6th, 7th, 8th and 9th, Roldan Rodriguez, our race leader, is now just 5.2 seconds clear of Nicky Pastorelli, and Pastorelli has got the bit between his teeth here. The Renault could yet win this race. There's enough time on the clock, and the gap from first to second is slender enough that we should have a really close fight for the lead before we get towards the closing stages of the race. Maximum commitment from this group of cars through Eau Rouge and then out over the crest at Radion along the Kemmel Straight. Fabio Babini having broken clear of this group, no particular threat for him in 5th from Ewan Hankey. They're all, by the way, about 7.5 seconds back from Sean Bow, but running at a very similar pace to Sean, so I think it's unlikely as well that Sean's going to be demoted much from 4th position. It's Moiseev and Thomas Biaggi do battle, and Biaggi's got the run here, coming down into the Bruxelles hairpin. He should, but can't, squeeze Lamborghini through. Moiseev really confident on the brakes, particularly into the heavy braking zones, able to stop that Ferrari pretty late in the day. And it means that Biaggi can swarm around his tail all he wants, but at the moment, the Orange 1 Team Lazarus Lamborghini Huracan can't find a way past the AF Course Ferrari. Again, Biaggi has a look into Pouhon. This time he forces the slight mistake from Moiseev and is able to dart past. He just forced the Ferrari offline for the first of the left-handers, and that left a Lamborghini's width to the inside for the second of them. And the driver of Thomas Biaggi's experience and calibre needs no second invitation. So he should be able to ease clear of the Ferrari. Moiseev, who's just received a warning flag for track limits and then promptly exceeded them again coming out of Fagnes. Comes very close to exceeding them through Stavelot. Meanwhile, Stéphane Lemeray is back with Ewan Hankey. The pair of them continue to dispute 6th and 7th. Lemeray also leading the GTOpen class alongside Claudio Sedanovic, his co-driver. Meanwhile, I can tell you at the front of the field that the gap between leaders has come down by a further second. Roldan Rodriguez did a 2 minutes 19.9, Nicky Pastrelli a 2 minutes 18.9. So it's now just 4.2 seconds from first to second, and that rate of capture, we will have those cars together within 4 laps, which will then give Pastrelli probably 3 laps to challenge Roldan Rodriguez, and Rodriguez 3 laps to do everything he can to hold on. Through the compression at the bottom of Eau Rouge, sharply uphill, Lemeray and Hankey and Stefan Lemeray. The AF course car looks so well set up in Estoril, and again here at Spa-Francorchamps, it just looks like the car is perfectly tailored to what Stefan Lemeray wants it to do. Everything he seems to ask of it, it does, and before he's able to begin to hassle the TF Sport Aston Martin, Ewan Hankey navigates Les Combes. Just 10 minutes left on the clock. 2 leaders getting ever closer to each other at the front of the field. This fight for 6th and 7th is equally keenly matched. Let's run you down the classification. Roldan Rodriguez leads, Nicky Pastrelli is 2nd, Combes Ledogar is 3rd, Sean Balfe is 4th, Fabio Babini is 5th, Ewan Hankey is 6th, just from Stefan Lemeray. That's the fight we're watching. 7th is Lemeray, 8th Biaggi, 9th Alex Moiseev, and then in 10th place it's Michael Benham in the 2nd of the Garage 59 McLarens. Through Fania, and Ewan Hankey, driver of his experience, he knows that really all he needs to do is, if he sticks to the racing line in the Aston Martin, it's going to be very hard for the Ferrari behind it to find a way through. And them about to exit Stavelot, the blast back towards the pits, where we are currently awaiting Roldan Rodriguez to come past the commentary position. Flash of the headlights from Stefan Lemeray, which serves to work not at all in distracting Ewan Hankey. As a result, Hankey maintains that 6th place. The leaders have gone through, and this was a better lap from Rodriguez and not such a good lap from Nicky Pastrelli. Pastrelli closed onto Rodriguez by just 1/10 of a second, so it's 4.1 seconds now between the leading duo. The driver who closed on both of them was Combes Ledogar, and Ledogar is now just 9.7 seconds off the lead. Fabio Babini in 5th, not under threat particularly from this Hankey and Lemeray scrap. And Ewan Hankey likewise, although he's got the headlights ablaze, although he's got Lemeray, it's always his heel, doesn't look like he's likely to be demoted by Lemeray particularly quickly. Here is the race leader, Roldan Rodriguez. Rodriguez negotiating the Bruxelles hairpin. He was half a second quicker than Nicky Pastrelli through the opening sector of the lap, but we would expect that it's the ground that Pastrelli can make in the middle sector, which is going to, and there is Pastrelli at the back of the picture, determine just the extent to which Rodriguez's lead is at risk heading towards the latter stage of the race. Really, Pastrelli on this lap needs to be a good second quicker than the BMW, and he's going to gain all of that time through the middle sector. Thumbs up and fingers crossed in the garages. Oh, Pastrelli wobbling coming out of Fania in pursuit of Rodriguez. Nicky Pastrelli so nearly won the title, partnered alongside Miguel Ramos in the V8 Racing Corvette, and it's now his former driver partner Miguel Ramos who is looking to deprive of a race victory. Ramos having driven the first phase of the race, for handing over to Roldan Rodriguez. Now through that middle sector, Pastrelli was 0.8 quicker than Rodriguez. It means a net gain of 0.3 of a second for the lap, and that is not enough for Nicky Pastrelli. It's something, but it isn't going to bring the Renault onto terms with the BMW between now and the checker flag. Of course, it depends just how much life Pastrelli's got left in his Michelin tires. Across the line comes Rodriguez, a 2 minutes 19.9. Pastrelli, a 2 minutes 19.8. So it's just 1/10 of a second once more gained for Nicky Pastrelli. In 3rd place, Combes Ledogar, slower than the 2 leaders. And as a result, he remains 9.5 seconds or so adrift of the lead of the race. as he heads downhill out of La Source on towards Eau Rouge. You can see how that gap has been fluctuating. With just 6 or so minutes remaining, just wonder who has got something they can pull out of the bag. But Rodriguez has got such a good car through this first sector of the lap. Again, he gains 0.6 of a second on Nicky Pastorelli. Pastorelli trying to close that gap down through the middle sector. He needs Rodriguez to make a mistake. He also needs to possibly ask a bit more of the tyre than he's really got. Well, Lemeray and Hankey remain much as they were. Ewan Hankey still in 6th position ahead of the GTOpen leader Stéphane Lemeray. Lemeray leading the GTOpen class from Luis Silva and Antonio Coimbra. Unfortunately, the other GTOpen car we've lost, that was Philippe Barrios and Max Brahms. Stéphane Lemeray almost barely counts as the GTOpen leader. He's right up there with the professional drivers, continuing his rich vein of form at the start of the 2016 season. We've got another car, and that's Luis Silva, who has been summoned to race control, and that is most likely for a track limits violation. There indeed is Luis Silva, the sporting new Mercedes, an absolutely immaculately turned out car. And what you don't get a sense of from the television pictures is just what a wonderful throaty rasp that car makes as well, particularly at speed. Just behind is then James Abbott in the Radical RXC. So Luis Silva second in the GTOpen class, while he and Antonio Coimbra, the double winners in Estoril a month ago. As a result, it's going to be quite a close GTOpen championship battle this year, I'd suggest, between Lemeray and Sadanovic, and then Silva and Coimbra. There are them trading wins in the early stage of the season. Now, for Roldan Rodriguez, he's got a little bit of traffic to contend with. That is Juan Cruz Alvarez in the DriveX Audi. Rodriguez doesn't really want traffic to deal with. That last lap as well from Rodriguez, he did give away a chunk of time to Nicky Pastorelli, about 0.7 of a second. It means that Pastorelli's now just 3.3 seconds back, and the DriveX Audi is a nimble car through the corners. Oh, but not if it goes straight on at Les Combes, which is what happened there. That is another obstacle negotiated for the Teo Martin Motorsport team, and now in fact it falls onto Nicky Pastorelli to try and pick his way past the DriveX Audi. Sure that it would have been communicated to Juan Cruz Alvarez over the radio that Pastorelli is en route, and not to make anything too difficult for Pastorelli. But what that has done, though, is mean that Rodriguez didn't get the sort of advantage through the first sector over Pastorelli that he's enjoyed over the past couple of laps. This is a good opportunity for Pastorelli to try and close up on to Roldan Rodriguez. It's also going to be touch and go at the end of this, the 24th lap of the race, whether or not we're going to be going in to the final lap. It depends whether or not Rodriguez can make it through to the checkered flag within the next 40 seconds. Thereabouts. Pastorelli through that middle sector was a second quicker, so he's 0.7 of a second up on Roldan Rodriguez through this lap. It's not enough for Nicky Pastorelli, because as you can see, the BMW has got a good comfortable advantage and is going to be starting the final lap of the race next time around. Rodriguez runs into the bus stop chicane. Once we've got 2 minutes 20 or less on the clock, it is going to be the last lap. And that has been well managed from Roldan Rodriguez. He accelerates over the line now to start the last lap of the race. Nicky Pastorelli has found a way past Juan Cruz Alvarez, and therefore he's 2.8 seconds back. That is a huge ask for just one lap for Pastorelli. He's got to close that time down and then find a way past. Roldan Rodriguez on his final lap. It's been a day of mixed fortunes for the Teo Martin Motorsport team. We lost the sister BMW, Fernando Monnier, in a very nasty accident early on in the race. Fernando Monnier, fortunately, is okay, but worrying moment for the team. But what it has served to do was bunch the field for a prolonged period in the opening phase of the race, and then post pit stops Rodriguez was released with good track position, and now he and reigning champion Miguel Ramos are looking good for their first victory of the season, the first victory for the BMW in the Teo Martin Motorsport squad. Of course, they ran with the McLarens last year, they got the BMW this year, and it is almost immediately a very, very competitive proposition. Rodriguez heads into Pouhon for the final time. Nicky Pastrelli has given valiant chase in the V8 Racing Renault RS01, but it's not quite been enough for Pastrelli. He just couldn't quite sustain the pace that he had for a few minutes, with about 20 minutes to go when he was always getting ever closer to Rodriguez. But unfortunately for Pastrelli, that pace has just gone away from him over the last 2 or 3 laps of the race. But nonetheless, for Pastrelli and Josh Webster, it's going to be an excellent second position, and likewise for Cohen Nedegar and Alexander West after the spin for West on the first lap of the race. They are looking very good for putting the Garage 59 McLaren once more onto the rostrum. Roldan Rodriguez heads through Blanchimont for the final time. The Spanish driver in the German car run by the Spanish team is about to take victory in Belgium. He gets on the brakes, he moves down through the gears, he negotiates the bus stop chicane for the final time, he accelerates out of the final corner, the checker flag goes out, and Roldan Rodriguez and Miguel Ramos win the third round of the International GTOpen. Second place goes to Nicky Pastrelli and Josh Webster, and it's Cohen Nedegar and Alexander West who complete the podium after a fairly dramatic 70 minutes of racing. Not quite the race we were expecting, but nonetheless one that has thrown up plenty of drama. Sean Balfe and Phil Keane, they take a very solid fourth, ahead of Manuele Busnelli and Fabio Babini. What about the Ewan Hankey and Stefan Lemray battle? Ewan Hankey and Sally Yuluk take 6th position. Stefan Lemray and Claudio Stanvic 7th, and they win the GTOpen class ahead of Thomas Biaggi and Fabrizio Crostani. Alex Moisiev and Marco Ciocci will take 9th. Michael Benham and Duncan Tappy in 10th. Luis Silva and Antonio Coimbra. Well, Luis Silva's still got a long way to go to the flag. But into Parc Ferme and celebrating victory, Roldan Rodriguez and Miguel Ramos. Delight for Rodriguez as he hunts around for someone to celebrate with. Overjoyed with that win. Josh Webster runs down the pit lane to offer congratulations to Nicky Pastrelli. Rodriguez hams it up for the cameras. As Pastrelli unclips himself from his helmet, and I'm sure will be the very grateful recipient of a long overdue glass of water. Hot work inside the cockpit. Thumbs up from Webster and Pastrelli. The Garage 59 pairing of Cohen Nedegar and Alex West also smiling in Parc Ferme. So Roldan Rodriguez enjoys celebration. Let's take a look then at the final classification. Rodriguez and Ramos taking the win. 2nd place to Pastrelli and Webster. 3rd to West Nedegar and also getting the fastest lap. 4th for Sean Balfe and Phil Keane. 5th for Busnelli and Babini. 6th Hankey and Yuluk. 7th and GTOpen winners Claudio Stanvic and Stefan Lemray from Thomas Biaggi and Fabrizio Crostani. Then Alex Moisiev and Marco Ciocci. Michael Benham and Duncan Tappy completing the top 10 after a fairly torrid race for them. 2nd GTOpen finishers Antonio Coimbra, Luis Silva from James Abbott and Colin Noble. Then Alvarez and Rath. We lost Brams Barrieros, and of course we lost Fernando Monnier. In terms of the championship then, well, Phil Keane and Sean Balfe continue to lead the way from Biaggi and Crestani, then Tappy and Benham, but Ramos and Rodriguez now getting into the mix, as is Alexander West. But still an awful lot of racing to go. This is just the 3rd of 14 races for the International GTOpen. Plenty of drama here in Spa, but of course we have got all of the action from the 4th race of the season to come tomorrow here in the Ardennes. So lots of very happy drivers in Parc Fermé as they celebrate here in Spa.
Miguel Ramos, Roldan Rodriguez, first win of the season. Miguel, you are happy?
I'm very, very happy. Really, it was very hard for us in Israel. The drivability of the car was not there, but in this circuit, I think we found the solution. So we're really happy.
Yeah, you are happy, but I think Roldan is even happier because it's a long time he hasn't been in this position.
Yeah, I'm a happy man. I want to say thanks to Teo Martin, to the team, to all the mechanics. The job that they do is amazing. The only thing I did was to drive the car I had, and the car was fast because of the team. So I'm super happy. As you said, it's a long time without being in the podium. Actually, I think the last time was here in GP2, so I'm super happy. I want to celebrate it.
Good. We are live. Podium.
Let's take a look back then at the highlights of a dramatic race. And off the line, it was Fernando Monnier who got the jump on Duncan Tappy, but Tappy making contact with Marco Ciocci, picking up what we suspect was a puncture, and as he slowed, teammate Alex West taking evasive action, and Felipe Barrieros also getting mixed up. This was the moment on which the race turned. Early leader Fernando Monnier clouting the tyre wall. Fortunately, he escaped without injury, but that gave us a prolonged safety car period that took us almost up to the pit window. That meant that when we did get going once more, some of those drivers, some of those teams that wanted to put their pro driver in for the second half of the race started to absolutely fly. That was certainly the case for the BMW Teo Martin Motorsport entry for Roldan Rodriguez. Before too long, Rodriguez was able to overhaul Sean Balfe and take a lead he was not to relinquish. Nicky Pastrelli was also charging up through the field, and he was able to pick his way past Alex Moisev before setting off in pursuit of Sean Balfe. Wasn't too long before Pastrelli got onto terms with Balfe, and then through an excellent move at Fagna was able to ease into second place himself in pursuit of Rodriguez, as Balfe got shuffled off the podium by Coen Ledegaard in the Garage 59 McLaren. Sean Balfe and Phil Keane, though, a solid 4th place keeps them in the lead of the championship, but delight for Roldan Rodriguez and Miguel Ramos. They take their first victory of the season, and the same for the Teo Martin Motorsport BMW team. Second place for Josh Webster and Nicky Pastrelli, and Coen Ledegaard, Alex West completing the podium with Stefan Lemeret and Claudio Sadanovic at GTAM winners. This driver's about to be announced up onto the rostrum. The team's already in the pit lane to cheer their charges. But we will say goodbye from Spa-Francorchamps, and from Ben Evans, we'll see you tomorrow as the celebrations continue on the Spa podium. National anthem rings out in honour of Teo Martin Motorsport, Roldan Rodriguez and Miguel Ramos onto the presentation of the trophies. Third place to come Ledogar and Alex West, and after that early spin for West, magnificent recovery to get on to the rostrum. Runners up Nicky Pastorelli and Josh Webster. Great drive from the Renault RS01 pairing. And race winners Miguel Ramos and Roldan Rodriguez. Don't forget to join us, we're only halfway through the weekend and we've got race 2 tomorrow. But from now in Spa-Francorchamps, for myself, Ben Evans, it's time to say goodbye. Good afternoon, everybody, and welcome back to Spa-Francorchamps for the second race of the weekend in the